That's a jobs deal. Let's talk about budget for a minute. Anybody know what the total state budget is? Total dollar budget. Anybody know?
29.9 billion.
There you go. Somebody nailed it exactly. Okay, let's call it 30 billion for math's sake, just to make it easy. Okay. Here's what y'all should understand about that budget. About half of that money comes to us in various sources from the federal government. Okay. Now, obviously, we pay for part of that too, but about half of that. A lot of healthcare dollars, a lot of education dollars, some road and bridge money. Okay. The other half, roughly, comes directly from us. Mostly sales tax. When you buy a meal here, when you go to Target, whatever, mostly sales tax. It also comes from some taxes on businesses, franchise and excise taxes, tuition if your child goes to MTSU or Austin P or UT, whatever. All that other stuff adds up to about $15 billion, but most of that is sales tax. Okay, the recession hit, and our sales tax was off, collections were off about 12%, 11 or 12%. The net effect of that was we ended up short in our budget about $1.5 billion with a B. Okay? Now, when Washington ends up short, what do? They just print more, unfortunately. The good news is Tennessee can't do that. Okay? We have to balance our budget every year. So when we did that, how did we balance the budget?
Rainy day fund.
Rainy day fund was part of that. One time our rainy day fund, that's what government calls savings account. It was at $750 million. It's now at $225. So we lived out of our savings account, if you will. What else do we do?
Borrowed.
A bunch of one-time money, namely the federal. Remember the federal stimulus plan that President Obama passed a couple of years ago? It sent money to lots of places. Okay, it was supposed to go to build roads and bridges, and a lot of infrastructure. That's how they sold it. But it went to a lot of people's pet causes and a lot of other things, and spent money that, unfortunately, there's some kids in here that you all will be paying back, and your children will be paying back someday. Okay. But one of those places that money went was to states. With the idea that we'll put some money, we'll give you some money, that'll tide you over until the recession's over, and then you won't have to make any hard calls. Well, guess what happened? The money runs out this December, and we're not out of the woods on the economy yet, okay? So literally next year, we're going to have $1.5 billion less to work with than we do this year, okay? $1.5 billion. That won't be easy. I am somebody that believes in smaller government. I think smaller government's better. I think the government wastes too much money. But cutting $1.5 billion will not be easy, okay? It'll be a lot of hard decisions. But again, if that's true and that's the job, then we need to make certain that you hire somebody to do the job who's done that before. And we've done that in the city of Knoxville. We actually have a budget that's less, not just in last year, 2 years ago, but less in real dollars than 3 years ago. We have the fewest number of employees we've had in over 15 years. The lowest property tax rate in over 50 years. In hard times, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to cut your debt and increase your savings. We've done that. Our debt is 30% lower than when I came into office, and our savings is 300% more. Okay, so we're prepared for the hard times that are going to continue. And we've done that, I think, without cutting the services to our citizens. We've done that while maintaining all of that and making it strong and keeping the city strong in terms of serving our citizens. So that's the big challenge that's going to be hard. And everybody always says, it's like, oh, you know, Bill, when I ran for mayor, like, oh, great, I'm glad you're there. We want you to go in and run the city like a business. And everybody says that until you do it. And then it's like, oh, I didn't mean like that. I didn't mean about the thing that I cared about. And that's what it'll be like next government. I know you have some people here that want to come be in the State House, and they're good people. And, Charles and Jim, and I guess I'll go in here. So we have over here good people who will help us in a very, very difficult situation. But everybody has to realize that we're going to make some really hard calls. But by the way, just like your families have, right? And just like businesses have, to make those kind of hard adjustments. So that brings us to where we are now. We are 15 days away from Election Day. Like I said, after 655, that sounds close. Early voting has actually started. We have early voting lasts for 14 days. 5 of them are in the bank. Okay? And about half of the vote happens in early voting. Okay, so a decent amount of the election is behind us. Not all of it, but of the people who are going to vote, I don't know, 10 to 15% have already voted. We're expecting a little bit less than 2 million people to vote statewide, about that, somewhere a little bit less than 2 million. Good, like I said, decent amount of those folks have already voted across the way. Just out of curiosity, how many people here have already voted? Good job. Well, I'm going to end. I'm going to encourage you to early vote. I'm just warning you now because I do think it's important. I appreciate that, but I do want you to do that. Let me just touch on one other thing, and then we'll open up for questions about whatever. And we'll talk